If you have been looking at the latest HDB BTO launches, you've probably noticed that things look a little different now. Gone are the days of mature versus non-mature estates. Instead, we have the new trio, standard, plus, and prime. The big question a lot of people are asking is, are the prime and plus flats actually worth it, or are the rules just too stringent? Let's break it down. Before we dive into whether it's worth it or not, here is a quick breakdown of how these three types compare. In terms of location, prime are located in the absolute golden spots, for example, near MRT and also in mature estates, whereas plus nowadays, it's a little bit shifting. In the past, the assumption is plus flats will be near MRT, but based on several recent launches, it seems that that's not always the case. So what I have observed is that for plus flats, they are still located near town centers, but they are not always near MRT station. And then standard is just everywhere else. In terms of the price, prime get the most subsidies, and then plus also got subsidy, but the amount is less than prime. Now, the next one is what you are probably most familiar with, which is the MOP. So standard still got 5-year MOP, but then plus and prime is being slapped by 10 years MOP. Regarding clawback, if you sell the flat and it's under plus or prime classification, there's a certain percentage that you need to give back to HDB. Prime has the highest clawback and then followed by plus flats. In terms of the actual percentage itself, I noticed that the range actually shifting from launches to launches, but it tends to get bigger from time to time. So that's a watch out. And then in terms of the rentability, for standard, you will be able to rent out spare rooms before MOP, and then after MOP, you will be able to rent out the whole unit. But note that for both plus and prime, you will never be able to rent out the whole flat, and you can only rent out spare rooms. Another watch out is that if you want to sell your flats down the road, plus and prime flats will require buyer to be under a specific income ceiling. So that's the watch out. At the moment, the cap is $14,000, so very similar as if you want to buy a new BTO. Now let's focus on the plus and prime restrictions. The government gives you extra subsidies to make these great locations affordable, but as the saying goes, there's no such thing as free lunch. To stop people from flipping these flats for a quick $1 million profit, they added these clauses. Number one is the 10-year MOP. For a standard flat, you can sell after 5 years. For plus and prime, you must stay for 10 years. The reality is, if let's say you buy your flat at age 28 and then you wait for 5 years for construction and then stay for another 10 years waiting for the MOP to be finished, you will be around 43 years old before you can sell. If your family outgrows the space or you want to move closer to a specific school, you're pretty much stuck until that MOP clock runs out. And then another catch is the subsidy clawback. When you eventually sell your prime or plus flat, HDB wants some of that extra discount back. So for example, if you sell a prime flat for $1 million, you would have to give back HDB about $90,000 if the subsidy clawback is 9%. If it's bigger, then it's a bigger number. It definitely bites into your profit, but remember, it is still cheaper versus if you buy a resale flat in the same area. Now, is the higher clawback a deal breaker? Well, not yet at this moment. Even with a 14% clawback, some analysts argue that these flats are still a win. For example, if you buy a prime flat for $700,000 and it's worth $1.2 million in 10 years, a 14% clawback, meaning that you have to pay back HDB $168,000. It sounds a lot, but you still walk away with a massive chunk of capital gains, plus you enjoy 10 years of living in a location that most people can only dream about. Now, here's the actual catch. The clawback is not your biggest enemy. It's actually the income ceiling for the next buyer. When you sell a plus or prime flat, your buyer must earn less than $14,000 per household. This means you cannot sell your $1 million HDB to a high-flying couple earning $20,000 a month. This effectively puts an invisible ceiling on how high your selling price can go. The $14,000 income ceiling is the government's secret weapon to kill the lottery effect. It doesn't just limit who can buy, it effectively puts a hard ceiling on the price you can sell for, of course, unless you can find a buyer who has like a rich parent or something like that. That's how it works in the real world. Now let's discuss how the income ceiling actually drags down the price. In a normal standard resale flat, let's say a couple earning $30,000 a month can decide that they want to buy your unit and they are willing to pay $1.5 million for it. They don't care about the price because they have the money. But for plus and prime flat, that couple is banned because your buyer must earn $14,000 or less. This changes the math completely because remember, the mortgage servicing ratio or MSR also has a cap. HDB rules say that you can only use 30% of your monthly income to pay your HDB loan. For a couple earning exactly at $14,000, 30% of it is $4,200 per month. At the current interest rate, such monthly income can only support a loan of about $850,000 to $900,000. If the buyer can only borrow $900,000 and let's say they have $200,000 in CPF or cash saving, the most they can pay you is about $1.1 million. They literally cannot give you more even if they want to because they won't get the loan. While we won't see any of the prime or flats in the resale market for many years to come, analysts already projecting a glass ceiling. They say that the realistic peak would be around $1.1 to $1.2 million, again with a caveat unless you have somebody who is really cash rich and can afford to put on more money. So, most experts believe that plus and prime flats in the future will struggle to cross the $1.2 million mark in today's value. Another consideration is if a buyer is asked to pay 1.3 or 1.4 million for your plus or prime flat with all of the strict rules such as 10-year MOP, no renting out, etc., they might just rather go buy an older resale flat nearby with no restrictions or a resale condo where they can have more freedom. And remember, there is the subsidy clawback. If you sell your flat for $1.2 million and let's say you have a 14% clawback, you will lose $168,000 immediately. To make the profit feels worth the 15 years wait, which is MOP plus construction year, you would want to sell it higher, but then the income ceiling for the buyers doesn't really let you. This will eventually lead to a very strange situation in the future where plus and prime flat will maybe price maximum at $1.1 million because of the $14,000 income ceiling, but the standard flat next door, which is older, it might be sold for a much higher price, let's say 1.3 million, because it doesn't come with the income ceiling. You might actually see like worse flats selling for more money simply because they don't have the plus and prime restrictions. Another thing to realize is the rental ban. This is actually also a big one. For standard flats, once MOP is over, you can just move out and rent the whole unit for passive income. But for plus and prime flat, you can never rent out the whole flat. You must live in it. You can only rent out spare bedrooms, which effectively kills the investment property dream for these units. You may think, well, why don't I just pretend to lock one room and then pretend I live there? Well, technically, if you look at the HDB website, it's not allowed. If HDB finds out, they might fine you or maybe even confiscate your flat depending on the situation. So personally, I would not recommend going that way. So, are plus and prime flats worth it? I would say that it may be worth it if it's your forever home. If let's say you love the city life, you want to be within 5 minutes from an MRT station, and you don't plan on moving until your kids are in secondary school, maybe the prime and plus flats are a steal. You get $1 million location at a heavily discounted price. Another reason is if you prioritize on efficiency. If saving 30 minutes on your daily commute to CBD area is worth more than capital gains, then go for it. Your quality of life will be much higher. And then another perspective would be if you are a single buyer. Since 2024, singles can finally buy 2-room flexi flats in any location regardless whether it's standard, plus or prime. This is a huge win for those who want to live near the action. But on the other hand, I would say that plus and prime flats are not worth it if you are intending to upgrade. If your main plan is to sell your first HDB as soon as possible to buy a condo, then this is probably not the path for you. The 10-year MOP will delay your property ladder climb significantly. Another scenario where it's not worth it is if you want a rental income. If you eventually want to move in with your parents or stay overseas and just use your HDB as a cash cow, these prime and plus flats will not let you do it. Another scenario is that if you hate the rules and just want to sell your flat for as much money as possible. With plus and prime flats, the pool of people you can sell to in the future is smaller. Your buyer must also meet the income ceiling, which is currently $14,000, which will limit how high your selling price can go. So what's the verdict? Is it still a good investment? Think of standard flats as launch pads. They will give you the flexibility to move and grow. But think of prime and plus flats as like endgame homes. They will offer you a good lifestyle, but they do demand a long-term commitment. If you are looking for capital gains, which is selling for a huge profit, plus and prime flats are not as good as what it used to be. The income ceiling basically guarantees you won't get a windfall very easily, unless you're really lucky to find that special buyer. However, they are excellent if you want to live in a luxury location for a discounted price. You are essentially trading the right to a huge profit for the right to live in a good area you otherwise might struggle to afford. My suggestion is don't just look at the money, but think about your 10-year plan for your family. If you see kids, changing jobs, or a potential condo in the future, the 10-year MOP might feel like a very long time. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!